Hey guys, welcome back to the Sal Pitera channel, and today we're going to talk about the things that are going to cost you extra after you purchase the ticket on your cruise. So we'll be back to talk to you about it right after this. Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for staying through the intro. Before we begin, as always, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell notification, that way YouTube will let you know when we upload new videos. Okay, so you bought your cruise ticket, and I'm here to tell you that many people think that cruising is all-inclusive, and it is. And it isn't. So there are some things that the cruise lines really don't promote. It is in their fees packages and their terms of services and all that good stuff, but they don't actually tell you all this stuff usually when you buy your ticket. So today we're going to talk about all of the hidden prices, the things that are going to cost you extra after you buy your ticket for that cruise. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the transportation and the actual ticket purchase. A lot of travel agencies and even a lot of cruise lines themselves, when you're searching for a cruise, will give you an absolute great price. And then what they don't tell you until you find out when you check out that cruise and actually go to book it is that a lot of them don't include port charges and taxes. The taxes are taxes on your cruise fare, and port charges are the fees that each port charges you as you get into each port and decide to leave the ship. You have to pay those port charges if you go on a cruise, even if you never leave the ship. It is part of your ticket price, so when you get to that final checkout, you're going to find that it's been added automatically. So when you're talking to a travel agent or you're talking to Carnival or any other cruise line for that matter, make sure you ask the price after port charges and taxes. And if you book the cruise through me, I always quote our prices as the full amount. I don't try to hit you with any hidden charges afterwards. Of course, the other thing that it's not going to include is your airline. If you're traveling to get to your port to meet the ship, the cruise ticket isn't going to include your airline. Now you have two options for your airline. You can book it through a travel agency, such as your local travel agent, or even one of the online travel agencies like Travelocity or Priceline or any of those companies, or you can book your airline directly through the cruise line. Now typically if you book your airfare through the cruise line, you're going to pay a couple dollars more for it, but there are some advantages. The biggest advantage is the cruise line is going to stand behind you should anything happen while you're on the boat. For instance, my wife and I were on a New Orleans cruise going to Mexico a few years back, and we were stuck in a hurricane coming back, and we actually had to spend 4 extra days at sea. Well, when we finally got back to New Orleans, everybody else who had booked their airline through a travel agent or directly had to scramble with the airline companies to get new flights. When I got back to New Orleans, because our flight was done through our cruise line, while we were stuck out sea, the cruise line actually made all those arrangements for me. So as soon as I got back to New Orleans, the information deck on the cruise handed me my new portfolio that had all my new airline times, and we were ready to go. I did pay slightly more for those airline tickets than I would have had I went to one of the big box brand sites for airline tickets, but it was well worth it. So it's up to you considering where you'd rather buy your airfare, but know that it's not included in the price of your ticket unless you specifically ask for it to be. And the last thing you may want to consider is travel insurance. And it doesn't make a difference if you buy that through the cruise line or directly through a supplier like InsureMyTrip.com, which typically gives you a large array of insurance providers. Now, insurance for your trip is going to cover things like missed flights. It's going to cover just about any accident that can happen that would cause you to miss the ship, even if you got sick and couldn't make your trip completely. But the biggest thing it's going to cover you for is, God forbid, something were to happen on board the cruise line. Like, let's say you got really sick or injured and you had to be flown, helicoptered off the ship and flown home. It would cover that, and that could be literally $50,000 to $100,000 worth of ship doctors' expenses as well as the airlift. So really you want to strongly consider cruise insurance, but again, it's not covered in your normal cruise fare unless you ask for it. Okay, here's a big one. Let's talk about gratuities. Now, gratuities we get asked a lot of questions about. Most cruise lines are going to charge you between 15 and a 20% per person per day gratuity. Now, that gratuity is automatically added to your onboard account, usually about the second to last day of the cruise, and then charged to your credit card along with your other onboard expenses after you leave the cruise ship. Now, most cruises will allow you to go down to the information desk after they have posted the gratuity and either add, increase, or remove those prepaid gratuities. Now, before you do that, understand that those gratuities go to people like your stateroom steward, the cooks, pretty much everybody behind the scenes that really make your cruise an exceptional experience. So before you remove those gratuities, I strongly urge you to keep them on there. Those people work extremely hard for your tips and really do deserve them, but you can remove them if you like. Now, a non-removable tip is going to be for any alcohol or drinks like sodas or anything like that you purchase from any bars or from any bartender servers while you're on board the ship. They are automatically going to add a 15 to 20% gratuity per drink right onto your drink bill that you will sign. And again, it wavers depending on the cruise line how much that will be. One thing to take notice though is that you're already leaving that tip on there automatically. So most cruise lines have a line on there to add an additional gratuity. Keep in mind that you've already paid between 15 and 20% when you add that additional gratuity. There's also going to be a gratuity automatically added to any specialty restaurants that you visit that are paid restaurants on board the ship, whether it be the steakhouse, the sushi bar, or whether it be the coffee shop or anything of that nature. Anything additional you purchase in food, they're going to automatically add between a 15 and 20% gratuity when you sign that check when you're done. So again, like at the drinks, make sure you take that into account when you sign to put an extra tip on there. Okay, let's talk about non-gratuity items, the physical items that you can purchase while you're on board a cruise ship that aren't included in your cruise fare. So first we're going to talk about is alcohol and soda pop. Typically on most cruise lines, those are not included in your cruise fare. Now you can expect to pay between $15 and $20 for a mixed drink on board a cruise ship, between $7 to $13 for a beer on board a cruise ship, and of course there are some that are way out of that range. You can get into the really high expensive champagnes and liquors, but we're not going to talk about those, but they're not included in your cruise fare. You're going to want to purchase them additionally. Now you can order them either one at a time like you would a normal bar and sign the receipt when you're done, or most cruises also offer an unlimited alcohol package or a limited alcohol package. For instance, Carnival is 15 drinks per day. The same thing is going to happen with your soda pop on board. Soda is not included. However, again, most cruise lines offer a Bubbles card that can range anywhere from $5 to $15 per day per person, and that will give you unlimited soda as well as unlimited milkshakes on most cruise lines, specialty coffees, all included in that fountain soda card. So you may want to consider that. Also, if you purchase those things in advance on the cruise line's website, usually it's a little cheaper than waiting until you get on board. Okay, here's a tip for you that's going to save you a little bit of money. Most cruise lines will now allow anybody over 21 years of age to bring a bottle of champagne or wine on board. Now that champagne bottle of wine has to be 750 milliliters or less, and again, you have to be over 21 to bring one on board. Also, if you do bring a bottle of champagne or wine and it has a cork in it, make sure you bring your own corkscrew because the cruise line is going to charge you, in most cases, about a $10 fee to uncork your wine for you if you don't. Also, everybody in your party, regardless of age, on most cruise lines now, are allowed to bring a 12-pack can of soda pop. It has to be cans on most cruise lines because too many people were trying to sneak alcohol on board in plastic bottles, so most cruise lines don't allow plastic bottles any longer. So bring that champagne, bring that wine, bring a case of that soda pop, and it'll save you a couple bucks on board. Okay, next we're going to talk about the souvenir shops. We're going to talk about the formal wear shop and the jewelry shop. Of course, anything you purchase on board as far as your souvenirs, any jewelry you purchase in the shops, or if you rent formal wear, that's going to cost you a little bit extra. Okay, now let's talk about the food on board. I have seen people eat for free like a king all week and never spend a dime on extra food. And a lot of ships, it's all inclusive, especially some of the older ships. So you're going to find that all of your buffets are going to be free, the main dining room is going to be free, and the food is superb. But the latest trend in cruising is to offer additional specialty restaurants like steakhouses, sushi shops, etc. over and above the main dining room. Now, on most cruise lines, if you visit those extra specialty restaurants, they're going to cost you additional. So be prepared to pay for those. On average, like for instance, the steakhouse on most cruise ships are going to be between $35 and $50 per person extra for a really 5-star steakhouse meal. But those specialty restaurants are not going to be included. The same as your coffee shops, not going to be included. Regular coffee at the buffet is included, but your specialty coffees like the Starbucks on board, and those are not. And typically those also sell pastries. Those pastries are not going to be included as well. Okay, next let's talk about the spa and salon. So if you plan on getting a massage, you plan on getting your hair cut, nails done, all of those are going to be additional. Now in the spa, they do have a gym with lots of the latest state-of-the-art gyms. Most cruise lines do not charge for that. And a lot of cruise lines don't charge you to use the hot tubs inside the spa as well. So check with your cruise line. But if you're planning on getting services like, as I said, massages, nails, hair, those are all going to cost you a little bit extra. Okay, so as you're cruising all over the ship, you're going to find literally 7 days a week, especially on formal night, photography stations set up with backdrops. And you're going to be asked constantly, do you want to get a photo? You certainly don't have to, but if you do, those photographs are available for sale. They're not for free. A lot of cruise lines will offer prior to cruising a package where you can purchase as many photos as you like on board under one price, or you can go there and buy a photo. Typically it's about $20 for an 8x10, but those photographs aren't free. You will spend extra for them. Okay, of course the ship's going to have a casino. I probably don't even have to say this, but if you choose to gamble, you might make some money. You might lose some money too. The casino does cost extra. And while we're talking about gambling, let's also throw in bingo as well. Almost all cruise lines play bingo. They play them before just about every main show and just before events on board the cruise ship. And they give away everything from cashes to free cruises to the winner. And because it is gambling, your bingo cards are going to cost you extra as well. They can cost anywhere between $20 and $50 per game. They do tell you beforehand, so spend wisely when you do that. It's really easy to rack up a huge bingo bill. Okay, let's talk about shore excursions and behind-the-scene tours. Shore excursions are group-led events that take you out and about while you're in port of call. Everything from swimming with the dolphins to seeing Mayan ruins. There's tons and tons to choose from. They typically run between $30 all the way up to $250 per person per excursion, but there's lots of great things to do and they're not covered in the price of the cruise. Also, there's a lot of behind-the-scene tours as well on board the cruise ship. There's a lot of tours like the galley tour where they take you and they show you how the chefs prepare all your food. There's tours that take you down into the areas where the crew lives underneath the ship. Those are all available to you, but again, they're not included in the price of your ticket. Okay, so most entertainment is going to be included on board your cruise ship, but there are a few things entertainment-wise that aren't included. Like, for instance, a lot of ships now have an IMAX movie theater. That theater is not going to be included. Some ships have rides or specialty shows, such as a Cirque du Soleil show. Those aren't going to be included. Also, things like your art auctions and things of that nature. To go in there and enjoy the art auction is free, but if you purchase a painting, of course, that's not going to be included. Okay, so most cruise lines have offered free room service in the past, and most still do. However, some cruise companies like Carnival have added some paid options to their room service menu. And also, while room service in a lot of places used to be free 24 hours, now after a certain time at night, it's completely paid for room service. So be prepared to pay for room service as well as add a gratuity should your room service come and deliver your meal. Okay, and the last thing that's not going to be included is obviously anything you purchase while you're not on the ship in port. Now, you can certainly go back to the ship and have lunch if you want and save yourself some money for lunch, but you can't bring food off the ship. So if you have lunch in port, if you purchase souvenirs in port, even if the port is completely owned by the cruise line, those things are usually not covered. So make sure you know what's going to cost you and what's not going to cost you when you're in port on a cruise ship. Okay, so those are the things that aren't included on your cruise, and it sounds like a lot. And you can certainly rack up a huge onboard bill. I've seen people rack up thousands of dollars on board. However, I've also seen people go on a cruise and not spend a single penny on board other than the things that come free. So the answer to whether cruising is all-inclusive or not, the answer is yes and no. It really depends on you. If you go on a cruise, you can certainly enjoy the 5-star Broadway shows, you can enjoy all the buffets, you can enjoy the maiden dining room, and really have a fantastic time just enjoying the ship's free entertainment and food. And believe me, you're going to walk away thinking you've had an absolute fantastic vacation, regardless of whether or not you spend a bunch of money. But the opportunity is there for you to enhance that vacation, make it even better and more tailored to what you're like, but those extra things are going to cost you. So I hope this video helped. If I left something out, please make sure you let me know down in the comments down below. I really love hearing from you, and I'll see you on your next cruise.